Yeah.
There's other teams that don't. So I
Oop,
think we pretty
oop,
much embrace
we are
microservices.
live. Let you know. I missed the countdown.
All right.
All right. Hey,
Hey,
thank you guys all for joining us today. We have Charles Webb with us today. How are you doing, Charles?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I am so excited to have you guys here. Big shout out. Thank you for everyone in on the live stream already. Like post where you're from, where you're joining us from. Love to see where the heck is this audience and stuff. But Charles, we're going before we get into one of my absolute favorite topics in the world, which is Power BI data marts. Why don't you give our viewers and the people on the live stream a little more background on yourself? What is it that you do? What are you doing at Microsoft today?
Yeah. So I'm a PM lead for Data Marts, and this means that I'm focusing on helping all of you as our customers do more with the product, figuring out what features should the capabilities inside of Data Marts deliver to you, and how can we make sure that if you're an analyst or a business person or a developer, that Data Marts has something that will help you get more insights out of your data and make better decisions. So I'm based out of Seattle, and yeah, super excited to work for Microsoft and then secondarily serve our customers.
Oh, that is fantastic. And so we just got data marts earlier, this year. But how long
Yeah.
have you been like breaking your back over, trying to get data marts out for us as part of the solution?
So I wouldn't say breaking my back, but I would say that it's been super fun learning from customers and kind of ideating on what problems that we have the opportunity to solve, and then working through going from PowerPoint slides to wireframes to private previews and then now the public preview. And this is definitely a lengthy process, but it's been super exciting just getting the product to a shape that customers are really starting to love.
Oh, that's awesome. Charles, your volume sounds a little low, so we're going to see what
Yeah, let me see if there's something I can do on my side.
would be
Is this
great.
better?
Let's
A
see.
little bit better.
You're a little quieter.
A little quieter. What
Yeah.
about now?
Oh, a
Better?
little bit better.
A little bit better. Let's see. Adjust this guy. Get a little bit closer. Is it better now?
Yep. Uh,
Okay. Cool.
you're coming a little better, so
Okay. Cool.
awesome. Great. So, thank you. Well, I really wanted to thank you for you and your teams, all of your hard work in delivering Power BI data marts. That is it's a very exciting new resource that we have available to us. So thank you so much. But before we dive too deep into data marts, I was doing a little online research into Charles Webb, and the only Charles Webb I could find has all sorts of stuff about basketball. Is
Yeah.
it? Are you the Charles Webb? Can you tell me more about this?
So I'm not the Charles Webb, but I played college basketball in my previous life. And when I played, I was a walk-on at a school called the University of Denver, and I was the shortest guy in Division One college basketball. So what was neat about that experience was I learned a lot about, teamwork and working really hard and dedication, but also like what amazing things a team could do if they're all dedicated towards the same vision and goal. And so it was a really great experience, getting into my career and then ultimately now working in product management. But I do love basketball on the side. Love to play still.
Oh, that is just awesome, and I think as a guy who has always been in tech, it is very cool to see like people who wouldn't classically be considered a nerd, like doing such wonderful things inside of the tech space, and so that is super awesome. That's great. Oh, fantastic. Okay, let's talk data marts now. For people who aren't aware, can you describe where do data marts fit inside of the Power BI solution?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question. So we cover this in our docs a little bit too at aka.ms/datamart docs. But if you're already using Power BI today, there's a number of areas where you can take advantage of having a relational database inside of Power BI for analytics. So if you're, for example, if you have a data set already, you might be powering your data set with data flows, with a SQL database somewhere else, and other capabilities. And there's an opportunity now to land a lot of your data right inside of Power BI, inside of a relational database. And this is going to unlock both the types of analyses that are really hard to do in a Power BI data set. Think like, flat, wide tables, multi-table joins, ad hoc analysis where you don't necessarily know what model you need to create, like SQL queries, and be able to, create queries without the superpower of SQL visually are a huge advantage there. And that can accentuate what you're already doing on the semantic layer, the BI model data set level. If you're using data flows today, data flows are an amazing ETL resource, but now you have a landing zone for that. And it's a relational database. So if you have, relationships, if you have additional ways you want to augment and describe your data, that relational store is perfect. And again, you have the SQL capabilities there. So if you have users that want to use Excel, they can now connect to that and go, crazy with the different capabilities they can do there. And then obviously you've got the data set, any third-party tools that can read SQL as well, to light up your analytics experiences. So either way, on those sides, that's amazing. And then obviously paginated reports and all these other capabilities can also get much better with data marts as well.
Oh, that's exactly right. It gives you a database, an actual database that you're loading information into that you then have analytics that can sit on. You can do your ad hoc analysis against. And what I thank you for at least 3 times a week is now I can run T-SQL statements against an Excel file, right? I can just drop an Excel file into my data mart that I've got all my other data in, and I can do some like ad hoc, like kind of crazy hacky joins to query my information, get my analysis from that, and I can easily mash that up against my other content without having to like create a table in my enterprise data set, right? Like, which nobody's gonna let me do, right? Like, that is just a brilliant and awesome play. So thank you so much for that. I absolutely love that. Next, one of the things that I really like was the ability to store and share queries inside of data marts. Can we talk about like what is the thought around how we're going to be sharing content inside data marts for managing a team or a team of people working inside of a data mart? What's the thought process around that, or how should people be looking at engaging with data marts in this and sharing queries?
Yeah. So first of all, data marts integrate with the workspace roles. So if you're an admin, a member, contributor, owner of the data mart, you all can collaborate inside of that user experience in the web, and you can write your own queries. And now we save those queries inside of that user experience, but we know that in order to really unlock the power of that ad hoc analysis, you need more. So one of the things that we actually announced at the Power Platform Conference that was a few weeks ago was that we're going to bring views as well to the fold. And this will enable you to consume the data that you queried and you've determined, hey, this is really interesting and meaningful outside of that data marts user experience, and for other applications and BI analytics use cases to take advantage of that as well. So obviously the use cases for that could be enormous, but we want to make sure that collaboration inside the workspace is one thing, because we know you're a team. If you're a user of the data mart, you're probably working in some sort of team environment. The next step is how do you take that value in the query and democratize that for others to be able to consume it and analyze that as well, and that's query and that's views. Sorry, so views are something that we're planning as well.
Oh, I am so excited about that. I am gonna admit. I took a little bit of a wager. I actually produced a whole video on like Power BI Data Mart's views. I published it last week because I was wagering that with the Power BI desktop release this week that we would see Power BI views. Now, the Power BI desktop release we just saw this morning, that got bumped to next week because of Ignite. Any chance we might see views next week with the Power BI desktop release?
So I would say views are coming later.
Okay.
But the thing I will say is that when it comes to Power BI desktop versus data marts, we have some differences. The first is we're not bound by how desktop releases because we're just in the web. So this means we can release more often or time our releases just as features are ready. So, for those viewers out there right now, I would say as you're voting on ideas.powerbi.com, this is where we're constantly evaluating those ideas and figuring out which ideas make the most sense. And we look at those top ideas to figure out, hey, in a given semester where we plan in 6-month increments, how can we deliver the features that you need as soon as possible. So we're not necessarily bound by those desktop releases. We can release faster.
Whoa, hang on. So you're saying I could see Views any given at some day in the future. I don't have to like wait for the releases. It could just be some random Thursday. I'm going to see Views suddenly appear inside of the Power BI service I could start to use, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. As soon as we have features that are ready and we follow safe deployment processes, we'll make sure that we can get as many features out as we possibly can to delight all of our customers. So being in the web really gives us, because we're a SaaS application, this gives us that advantage of being able to release and not have to worry about, the different versions of desktop that need to be released, right? The Windows Store, the one that's ready for Windows 10 and then EXE. So definitely stay tuned.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. And that actually explains something, right? Because, and I appreciate like an MVP based development, because you develop something, you roll it out, you get feedback, you make improvements upon the stuff that's most important to users. I love that. And I thank you and everyone on the Power BI team for taking that strategy by listening to customers and driving those things forward first. But that also explains, like, when Data Marts first came out, I was playing with it. I saw some little bugs and some issues I had, but then a few weeks later, like, they were just gone and I didn't see announcements on it. You're saying you rolled out changes and improved things in the experience. Yep.
Yeah, we have an awesome PM team and we have an awesome engineering team, and so they're all super customer focused, and we're all constantly trying to improve the product. So if that's reliability, if that's features, if that's just the general experience, all your feedback, we take it to heart. We're on all the social media channels, Reddit, Twitter. We're looking at your feedback on ideas. We're looking at your feedback in the community, and then we're speaking with customers every day. So super important for us to make the product better every day, and we're not, like I said, bound by any restrictions. Like, as we can release features in the web, being a SaaS service, we do.
That is absolutely incredible. I saw potentially a controversial post that someone did a performance comparison between Data Marts and showed it on par with some of your biggest competitors. Now, I was told that's frowned upon, but Data Marts is really producing some real top-notch speeds and performance. Can you talk to what things we might see in the future to continue that, or what things we might think about if we're not seeing good performance when it comes to Data Marts?
That's a great question. So we're doing a lot of work for users to make sure that there's no knobs for management and this thing just works. And as part of that, we're tuning the database. We're making sure we're developing with best practices. We want to deliver that amazing, seamless, get up and run performance. As part of that, we do have some best practices and things that you can do. For example, one is, as you're building a data mart, it's kind of live. So using deployment pipelines within the service will allow you to, introduce those safe ALM practices that can ensure, no collisions that you're still like in development. Other than that, I would say that, the same star schema dimensional modeling practices apply. When you think about, a SQL database and providing that citizen data warehousing capability, like, having your data modeled effectively is a very powerful asset. But again, right, you have the power of queries and joins and things like this. So we've tuned this database in such a way where it should be performant for a variety of query patterns.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, when I think back to like my DBA days and like managing my Data Marts, one of the big things was how would I go about like managing the data that would come in, and I would use like functions in order to like manage like a surrogate key inside of my Data Mart and content that was coming in. You think we're going to see anything along the function side anytime soon?
Yeah, so if you look at ideas right now, one of the number one ideas is DML DDL. Now, we talked about giving that little Easter egg towards views, but going along that journey, you have views, you have functions, you have stored procedures, and each one, becomes more composable, was a little bit more complex. So we're, honestly evaluating that capability as well. And how do we deliver all these in a way where there's no pitfalls to the analyst or the business person or, our other target personas that
makes
a really great performance.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you wouldn't want to release something that, because people are just going to be searching like functions, and so it would have to be like fully compatible, backwards compatible for like SQL functions, right? And you wouldn't want it to do anything bad. So that makes good sense. One thing, a question came up in the chat. Maybe I missed it. What date could I expect views delivered on?
No date yet.
No date. No date.
We gave an Easter egg during the Power Platform conference, and we said we're working on it.
Okay.
And
all right.
We have a current idea out there that says, "Hey, DML DDL," and so you can tell we're working on parts of that already because views are DDL. So no date just to share yet, but stay tuned to ideas and of course like the roadmap and the blog, because we post in the blog as much as possible, and we'll give you guys updates as they come.
So I was kind of hoping for a slip, but no, you're good. Good job. I believe it might be my idea that is the DML and DDL.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of other ideas around the same thing. We merged a lot of those.
Okay.
Someone was asking for functions as well. We merged them all together.
Okay,
so
into one.
Right now is all of them.
What?
But please keep voting. This will help us figure out what to prioritize. And in the comments for that particular idea, let us know what your use cases are and what out of the full surface area of DML, DDL is most important to you.
Yeah. No, that's great. And if you're on the live stream, please go out there and vote for this to make sure that we get this updated and prioritized. And I know you hear from the Microsoft guys always talk about like going out there and voting things up. Having sat on some like NDA calls, not gonna tell you anything NDA, but I know for a fact, even in like those calls, that is the message that that's always talked about, right? Like what is the voting, what is the ranking, what are people saying on these things? So that is not just a toss off to deflect. So I appreciate that, Charles. Thank you so much on that. So that's fantastic. All right, so inside of Datamarts, when people are working in there, what is the number one feature in Datamarts when you hear people talk about that? What's the feature that people aren't using or are getting wrong in Datamarts today, Charles?
So I don't know if anyone's getting anything wrong. I think we haven't seen anything where customers are really struggling from that standpoint. But I would say there are features that are used less.
Okay.
One of the more underrated features is row-level security.
Oh.
So inside of a data mart, you have the ability to both create row-level security, and you can do it in a GUI. So no longer do you have to specify SQL predicates and some of the complexities of defining it in SQL Server. But you can also impersonate. So after you've created this, you can also start to see what their experience would be creating queries and working with the model in the data view. And so these are two capabilities that I think are really underrated. And when we talk to a lot of organizations, this is something that they struggle with before data marts. Like, how do we secure our data state and make sure that no matter how someone is analyzing the data, it's done in a way that, one, improves their experience, so they'll see the data that's relevant to them. But then secondarily, we make sure that we don't have any risks. And so that's a super underrated feature. The other ones that I think are super powerful are the sensitivity labels. So this is the ability to make sure you don't have any data exfiltration risk. Someone leaves the company, takes the laptop. It's that canonical scenario, but scope to your data now. And so now you can say this is highly confidential, or whatever labels you've applied within Office will flow downstream. And then the last one has to do with the lineage. So a question that comes up is, hey, data marts is this older term within our organization, and how do data marts within Power BI make this easier? And so with data marts, we already talked about like the security and the DLP story, but now we can talk a little bit about the lineage. Where lineage becomes powerful is you now have an end-to-end way to see like what was the data source that someone brought in and how is it being used and governed within the organization. You have APIs and things that can get a full view of how is someone analyzing data sort of end-to-end. So if you're thinking about, hey, how can we govern these things, you have the full visibility that you would need. And that's in addition to, I guess, like the fourth, if I had to throw one out, would be we build this on top of SQL Server, right?
Yeah.
So if you're an admin and you're thinking about how do I govern this effectively, you have things like the query store and DMVs with which you can go and get additional insights on the query patterns and usage as well. So those are all features that as organizations are trying this out and evolving in their usage of it, they'll help you kind of put these into more effective use as we grow up that story.
Oh, that's fantastic. And straight up, honestly, I think of those that you mentioned right there, I am a big fan of the row level security, integrating that, because that integrates the model and your data estate. That is something that, frankly, real, like, analysts and people who work in analytical models, they focus and they talk about those things. And if you could do it inside your analysis services or inside your Power BI data models, you can have it flow back, but it becomes so hard for a lot of organizations to do that. That is amazing. That's just built right into the system that they can start to use that right away like that. That's fantastic. So yeah, I am super excited about that. That's great. When we think about where people are working and operating with data marts, have you seen any, because it's new, right? So we started off, there were some kind of challenges and issues. I've been reluctant to put like heavy duty production systems on top of this. What's the recommendation with pre-GA data marts? How should people be looking at playing with data marts and working with them? What's the path forward that people recommend?
Yeah. So first, let me take a step back and say what preview means for us.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, when we're in preview, it means that we have a roadmap we're executing against, and we also have features where we want to get your feedback. As part of that, what we're trying to do is make sure that as we continue to improve reliability and performance and stability, we also want to make sure you have the features that you need to make the product super lovable. So while we do this, it's a really good opportunity for our customers to get in, start using the product, but actually tell us what else they want and do it in a way where they can sort of try before they buy. And so while we're doing this, we do support the product completely, but there are situations where we're introducing new functionality. It's right hot out the oven. So what we generally say is, err on the side of caution in these preview situations, but no, these are things that we are supporting actively. So we do have a number of customers that have real world use cases for this, but they are very methodical in their testing, and they're thoughtful about what their SLAs are as well.
Okay.
That being said, we like I said, do support data marts, but generally you have to be thoughtful about whether or not a preview feature is worth your enterprise SLAs and best practices.
Right. And so probably enterprise isn't the right way to look at it, right? You're probably, best case is like, hey, this is a great resource for an analyst or team of analysts who are trying to bring data together and do something where, even if it's like outside, it's going to be outside the enterprise, right? But like a team of people want to bring some stuff together. As you said, you've got your data flows, so you can bring your enterprise data together, right? You can load that into your data mart, and then you can just, it's not quite drag and drop, but it's close to drag and drop, like an Excel spreadsheet out into your data mart and do some ad hoc analysis on it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. We really built it for self-service. So when you think about those real world use cases and providing a self-service utility, that's where I say we have a lot of organizations just using this thing, because you can get started really quickly, and then you can hammer it with queries and ad hoc analysis, and you can add more data and start to collaborate. You can do it in such a way where, as an analyst or as a business unit or department that's thinking about like data as a product or data mesh, and they're really trying to take advantage of how do we make better decisions, you can just get started really quickly and start making better decisions without having to think about infrastructure or the management or how to optimize the server or what additional resources you might need. And this is a nice little teeter-totter to be able to play nicely with those enterprise corporate sources where you can remove the load and isolate how you want to do things and have your own kind of like analytical playground. So those are all really good use cases. And like I said, these are things that during the preview, please go try and give us feedback. And please tell us what we're missing so we can improve.
Right. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially in organizations like if you're running Snaps or if you're using Snowflake or using Databricks or whatever it is you're using, you have a cloud compute cost every time you hit that data on the back end, right? So you can use data marts to load your data a singular time from these sources, right? Taking advantage of the various caching elements that pull that in so that you can execute at a single time and just pay for that once. But then have that data inside of your data mart where you can run queries, crazy queries against that data that have, you don't have any additional costs, right? Like this is a fixed cost. It's part of your premium capacities, right? It's part of your PPUs. So you can run and isolate and basically segment off that analytics consumption model. So this becomes a real strategic advantage inside of enterprises when it comes to how they provide data to analytical teams, especially if they're afraid of like, okay, if I give you unfiltered access to a Synapse resource or Databricks or Snowflakes or whatever it happens to be, there's concern people are going to abuse that, going to blow up your costs on your cloud side. By loading data into data marts, that really caps and gives people the ability to manage that cloud spend, right?
Totally. The way I think about it is data mart's really for the analyst and for self-service. And if you think about the canonical analyst tool, it's Excel. And when you're in Excel, you don't pay per formula or per cell.
Right.
You just analyze your data and you try to solve the problem of the day. So with premium capacities and with data marts, the similar type of equation. How can we give you a playground for analytics where you can produce the meat that you need for decisions? And how can we enable that true decision science and data as a product at that root level where analysts really are, without forcing them to learn new lingua franca or work with complex tools?
Right. Oh, that makes total sense. And with everything integrating right into Excel, and I mean, like, it integrates right into Excel, right? A click of a button, you get your stuff in Excel, and it's refreshable. Now you've created that you've just extended that ecosystem that we already have today, right? So you can run your queries, you can get that back, you can embed that in Excel. That same Excel spreadsheet, you can then connect to that data set that's inside of that embedded analytics, so you can actually do your mashups and your tests. Oh, I really like that. That's a fantastic solution for a team of analysts, right?
That's the vision.
Yeah. Oh, that is great. Now, and that actually, last week I was meeting with Win Hopkins. We were talking about like Power BI for the Excel analyst. I think this, really data marts is for, that Excel analyst too, right? It's for the teams that are out there and working and operating. Now, one thing in prep for this session, I went out to the Microsoft Learn site and I pulled up Microsoft Learn and I said Power BI data marts, and I didn't see a Learn there yet. Any idea on when we might see a Learn path there?
It's something we're actively evaluating. We want to make sure that we have a nice shape of the product first. So that we don't talk about things and then there are new capabilities that come in. So you have to make sure we time all these moving parts in such a way where customer can go in there and the messages are the same. The capabilities are all there that they really need. And the feedback for data marts has been really positive and overwhelming, and also very critical, which is another positive thing. And so we're taking all of that, we're making sure that we shape this product in such a way where we make sure you all love it. So as part of that, we got to probably wait a little bit just to make sure that we got the right features where customers are telling us this is awesome. Customers like it already, but we always want to get to that awesomeness that they tell all their friends. And so it's a journey.
Yeah. No, and I think that makes great sense, right? Because I run a YouTube channel. I'm like, okay, I do these walkthroughs, and then, it changes. Like, then that video is okay. Now I have to do another video. That's okay, and more source of videos. So, Fernando has a good question. He asks, to what extent data marts or self-service involve a team of analysts? Is that that's not very self-service anymore? He's asking. I guess to that I guess it sounds like it's still.
I would say we've observed self-service in many different modalities. So on one hand, you have like an analyst that's maybe just working in a particular department and they're trying to analyze questions of the day. We, for example, use data marts internally to answer certain types of questions. It's super helpful for, hey, I want to understand this particular thing. Separately, we know there are teams of analysis all over, whether it's embedded in a particular department or it's specific to a particular subject area. And typically, when you have an insight or decision you want to make, this is made in conjunction with multiple different other people who might want to see what the data looks like and play with it and ask additional questions. And so for either way that, an organization wants to work, Data Marts will work. When it comes to the collaboration, this is where those workspace roles come into play. And of course, the, role level security makes sure that, all these things can be delivered in an experience that makes sense. If you have, let's say, reporting from multiple different business units, and let's say I'm in finance, I can just see the finance data. And then someone who's in, FP&A, maybe needs to see some of the sales and marketing, supply chain data, could see just that. And so you can kind of narrow down and right size things as it goes. But when it comes to self-service, there's the creator, which can be done collaboratively, and also for consumption. When you think about ad hoc analysis, things like that, hopefully you have more than one particular individual analyzing it downstream as well, so that you can democratize the decision making and insights. But it should work for both, to answer your question.
Sure. And I think that's a good point, right? Because Data Marts works for the individual, like that analyst who's just trying to do something and get something done. But I think the nice thing is we're trying to highlight that it's beyond just the individual. It is for that team to be able to do something with and to be able to work and function with. That is excellent. And Charles, I would like to thank you. One of the big things that I kind of was a little critical on the launch was I wanted I wanted the capability to manage who in my organization could actually turn up and spin up these, because it does consume premium compute. And I'd like to thank you. That's now a feature that is available. So if you had looked at Data Marts, saw that wasn't a thing and just turned it off, now, please, if you're an admin, because I know a lot of people who watch this live stream are admins in your enterprise, if you turned it off, now you can turn it back on and you can create an AD group and say, hey, you know what? These people know what they're doing. I can trust them to the extent of an analyst team, right, to be able to go out and use this in a responsible manner. So thank you very much for making that feature available. I really appreciate it. That's allowed me inside my company to go and turn that on and make that available to people. So thank you very much.
Yeah, for this one, I would say, again, like, I know you're sending me a lot of praise, but our whole team deserves a ton of praise. This was actually delivered from Arthi on our admin team. And, this is something where a lot of our customers voted and told us, hey, look, this is super important to us. And we wanted to make sure we answered the mail and gave you the right controls to feel comfortable with, the great power of Data Marts. There's that adage that says, with great power comes great responsibility. I think it was on us as Microsoft to make sure that you had what you needed as an organization to trust our capabilities. So
sure.
Shout out to the team for that one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So big thank you for that. That is a absolutely wonderful new functionality that is out there. Yeah. You didn't notice I actually had your name spelled wrong in the live stream, but it's updated now, guys. So I apologize. Okay. Fix that. Now I'm all thrown off here. So fantastic. Data Marts, the back end on Data Marts, let's talk about that. That is a full-on SQL Server. Am I right?
Yep. It's an Azure SQL database, and we do some things to tune it and make sure that it's super performant for you.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. It's not just an Azure, it's an elastic pool, right? So it's scalable, and it's what else have you released about that solution, that Azure SQL database? I don't want to get too much into the weeds of that, but
it's an Azure SQL database. The whole idea about Data Marts is that as a user, you don't need to provision an Azure subscription, figure out your management groups, your resource groups, and how to govern and control that resource. You don't have to worry about tuning it. You don't have to worry about making sure that it's optimized for analytics. We do all of that for you, and all you worry about is, hey, what is the use case and the value that I'm trying to deliver, and how can I do it as fast as possible? Now, behind the scenes, there are things like statistics and CCIs, cluster column indexes, which are really like the Vertipack engine that's been reincarnated inside of the SQL Server engine. And there's other optimizations that we will make as part of making sure that your experience is amazing. But it's all about making sure that end-to-end experience is just super smooth, and you don't need to worry about anything else. It's all SaaS.
Hang on, did you say that the tabular engine has been integrated into the SQL engine for this?
No, what I said
Oh.
was that cluster column indexes
Mm-hmm.
take advantage of basically the VertiPack engine,
Oh, okay.
but inside of SQL. So
Oh, okay.
it
All
has
right.
a
All right.
similar, column store kind of compression and, super fast performance.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. I was just wondering if I missed something
Yeah.
inside there. Like, holy cow, are these worlds colliding and I didn't realize it? Okay. That's fantastic. That's great. And because it's a SQL server, and that means it's relational, so that I can take advantage of all of the capabilities that I know and love, and I can predict that in the future I'm going to have the functionality that would be akin to a SQL server versus a database. So I'm not going to have to worry about distribution. I'm going to be able to count on the ability to create and manage keys inside my environment, and I don't have to worry about like creating a dupe check that you have to do with MPP platforms, right? These things, it's a SQL server, right?
Yeah, it's a SQL server, right?
Okay.
So a lot of those, PaaS or IaaS experiences that you may be used to coming from other solutions, like I said, we try to SaaSify and simplify so that you
Mm-hmm.
can just focus on, I want to create my tables, I want to, analyze my data, I want to model my data, and then ultimately I want to, prepare my data for BI as well as answer questions of the day in SQL or visually. That's really what we want you to focus on, because when we talk with customers, there's a lot of friction between, the decision science that's needed and then the actual tools to help get that done. So our goal is to make that super easy.
Yeah,
The hard part is the context analytics.
what's that?
I said the
Oh,
hard part is the context that's needed in analytics and actually answering those questions of the day with the data that you have, not the tools.
oh
That's
my
the
gosh, yes. And that's why we want to give these tools to the analysts and the people in the business who know that context, that can add that rich flavor in, that can leverage these
Exactly.
tools to deliver for their company. That is, I absolutely love that, right? There's no AI that can do context, is there?
I think there's talk of that in the wild. I know we've got some pretty cool AI solutions here as well, but I think analytics is all about context, and AI can't necessarily solve that,
Right.
particularly in a particular business or domain where there's tons of expertise. If you think about like, the insurance industry or financial industry or mining or consumer product goods, like there's so much deeply entrenched context of the metrics and everything else that it
Yeah.
really takes people with expertise and the real world knowledge of the customer to make sure that the analytics help them make the right decisions for their customers.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I know you want this to be like a hands-off, self-service, like you don't have to worry about it, set it, forget it, it just works type of thing. But even I can break things, or accidentally execute a query that is garbage and is never going to return results because it's a poorly written query. Are there any plans to enable any type of management capabilities that would allow us to do basic things like kill a running process or see who's hitting my data mart, so I could do some sort of management of that?
Yep, there are plans for things like canceling queries and then more advanced capabilities. And there's other things that we're considering as part of that DML DDL
Mhm.
idea. We've
Okay.
heard customers say, "Hey, this SaaS is really nice, and the DQL service area is really helpful." But again, for runaway queries, for optimizing and having particular schemas for analysis and other types of patterns would be super nice. So I'd say
Right.
please go upvote that idea, the DML DDL idea, and then leave a comment below what specifically you're looking for to make
Okay.
that experience easier.
That's fantastic. And Ian asks, do improvements we make for general DQ then get rolled into data marts?
Yep. So the things like, for example, we have a auto-generated data set that's in DQ mode. And one of the features that's been in preview is now like the horizontal fusion, right? So these are the types of capabilities that, will get rolled in as well to make sure that just your SLA and your performance expectation is just it's super fast. And as those incremental changes go in, we also want to make sure you take advantage of them all in the web with no additional management or configuration by default. So that's kind of our vision.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I don't know about this, but can we expect our data sets to start to do like auto aggregation from the model that we're creating inside of data marts? Is that
So
a
right
thing
now
or no?
they're doing something special already called proactive caching, and this is an old school multi-dimensional feature from analysis services that basically puts your whole model in import mode. So the way it
Really?
works is when you first create a data mart,
Mm-hmm.
your data is in DQ mode, and then at some point we cache your data, put it in import mode, and we flip the connection for you, so you don't have to worry about anything. And if you think about it from a Microsoft perspective, the Vertipack engine is one of our fastest horses in the race. So the DQ performance we're making on the data set to the SQL Server are already making sure that everything's super optimized, but we want to put, our fastest horse in the race whenever possible. So this proactive caching feature is ensuring that that BI performance that you get on the auto-generated data set is also super fast because it's in the Vertipack import mode at that point in time.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I know you asked the question about like the aggregations, but we're going a step further and everything's imported.
Right. Well, but okay, so everything is important, but how much data can I put in a data mart?
So right now what we recommend is 100 gigs or less.
Yeah.
And that's thoughtful because we know, analysts are using a data flow to load data in. And then secondarily, if you're thinking about having, that data mesh, or we'll call it a hub and spoke model for analytics, either one of those patterns, you don't want to have everything inside of this thing. You want to have those strategic areas where you want to mash up with the additional data that you might have running your business to answer those questions of the day. And
Right.
so 100 gigs is what we recommend, which will give you a pretty sizable data mart, one.
Well,
and
right.
then two, that data set, that helps us make sure we can import your data as needed too, within a reasonable time frame, and ensure that your downstream performance is super powerful. So if you're using, let's say, deployment pipelines and you're working through building out a data mart, and now you've published it, right? When you publish it, that gives us some time to say, hey, let's import that data. And when you're having consumers now, hitting that data mart and hitting the auto-generated data set, the idea is that all that data will be in import mode. And when we look at telemetry, the majority of our data marts are now using import mode for the auto-generated data set, which is awesome. That means that, we're putting our best foot forward in terms of performance.
Right. How does that correlate to, like, if I have a P1 and I've turned on data marts, then I can only hold 25 gigs in memory. Mm-hmm. Do I have to correlate my data mart size to my premium capacity set? No.
Nope. So we're not billing or charging for data marts during the whole preview.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've committed to doing at some point during the preview is making sure you have time to see what it's actually going to look like on your premium bill.
Okay.
This is a ongoing future effort from us, so no updates that I can really share, but it is something we announced at Ignite and we're planning on still doing to make sure that customers can adequately plan.
Ignite's tomorrow, so.
And actually, I mean build, not Ignite.
Oh, okay, all right. I was gonna say,
yeah.
Do we have a okay, build? Okay, good. Whew. Neither one of us are getting in trouble for that one, so that's good. Excellent. So, prior to going live, we're going to see what the cost is on our premium. So we're going to start to see, will we see data marts inside of our premium metrics app? That's where it's going to start to surface?
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay. Good. So we now have controls over who can create it. We will soon have visibility into who can do what in it. We understand the size of the model, right? Like the target state size is 100 gigs or less, and you'll import that stuff into memory. And we understand that the audience is our analysts or analytical teams that are out there and working inside of these spaces. What else should we be thinking? Oh, and more importantly, we understand that we can establish row-level security in our models that bleeds into our data marts, that we can ensure that all of the data is secured, and we can put traceability labels on it so we can ensure that we don't see exfiltration, right?
Yep.
That is, that's an end-to-end data solution that like enterprises would die for. If only we could scale up a data mart to like actual cloud compute sizes and stuff. So that would be fantastic then. So that's great. What are we missing when it comes to data marts at this point then?
I would say there's a little bit more. So we talked a little bit about the auto-generated data set, but this gives you a ton of different consumption experience. So we talked about folks that maybe aren't used to Power BI today, that have SQL superpowers, or people that just want to do ad hoc analysis, and now they can be brought into the data mart, and they can use SQL, they can use third-party client tools, They use first-party client tools and all of this. But the second part of that is we have this auto-generated data set, and this allows you to have a bunch of other consumption experiences. If you just want to start building reports in the web, now you can do this. If you want to take advantage of the data set hub, the data hub inside of Power BI, which shows you all of those data sets, now you have a consumption discovery experience. So when it comes to building a solution, you're thinking about, like I said, the data mesh patterns, the hub and spoke models, just self-service generally. Leveraging the data hub is a next step too, to make sure that you can endorse your data assets and make sure that people can discover them in such a way where if they want to build something from what's certified or promoted or endorsed otherwise, they can do that, and you don't create multiple versions of the truth.
Oh, that is an excellent point. And having that centralized assets available for you and making it accessible across all of your consumption layers is fantastic, right?
Yep.
And actually, that brings us to the next point. So we saw already inside of Data Marts, you have an auto-generated model, right? So
Yep.
you generate and you build a model. We can add measures onto it, so we can build and contribute there. And then at Data Insight Summit, we saw that they're going to be announcing the ability to like edit and do more stuff in the web and whatnot. Are we going to see those experiences start to merge?
They're not going to merge, but that model view that you see inside of Data Marts will be very similar to the model view that you see in the forthcoming capability that we have on our roadmap for model authoring in the web.
Okay.
And so that is purposeful. We're actually using that component from that team. And the idea is we want to make sure you have the right level of cognitive transfer, whether you're using Data Marts, whether you're using Power BI Desktop, or whether you're building data sets now on the web. It's a similar experience. So if you're an analyst, you don't need to relearn new skills. It's all the same type of modeling capability. And if you've already invested in learning what a star schema is and everything else, you want to make sure that pays off, 3 times,
right?
So that you can be super productive no matter where you are. So that's the same experience, purposefully. And we want to make sure that as we continue to build experiences, they accrue value so that you know where and when you can do things.
That is fantastic. All right, and when we talk experiences, I think one thing that I have to say, there's some things that I know we're not supposed to talk about, and I've been skirting around, and they've been causing me to stumble here. Can we talk more about views, or is that something that we should pass on?
What we've said at this point is that we're working on it.
Okay,
right?
all right.
At the
Okay.
Power Platform Conference, so can't say too much more there, but we heard your feedback, and we did give a sneak peek. So this is something we can say we're working on, but I can't share an ETA.
No. Oh, you're too quick. That basketball reflexes have really are serving to be my undoing here. So that is fantastic. Now and to your point, we know we can use Data Marts inside the service, so we can build out we can build reports there, right? We can use Data Marts. We can access them from Power BI Desktop, right? We can access Data Marts from Excel, right? We can access Data Marts through Management Studio, and we can access Data Marts from anything that can connect to anything that can connect to a database, right? An OBT. Yeah. Is it an OBT connection, or what's the connection?
It's TDS.
TDS. Okay.
Tabular Data Stream Protocol. So another thing that you can connect to is Azure Data Studio. So this is like a VS Code like experience for writing SQL. It's a pretty cool application as well. So between SSMS and Azure Data Studio, those are our first party client tools.
Okay.
And they offer some really neat experiences like notebooks, inline charting, as well as SSMS is the workhorse application that's been there for years and years. So both of those are great options. And as you said, other tools that can talk TDS and connect through Azure AD authentication can also work with data in a data mart. We're working on improving that connectivity as well to make sure it's even easier for you to use your other apps. So this is work that we're doing. We've heard some feedback that, hey, you want to connect even more apps. So we're doing some work right now actually to make sure that no matter what third-party tool you connect to, it's seamless.
Oh, yeah, it would be cool. Like, I will admit, I attempted to use Azure Data Studio when it first rolled out, and I fell into MVP territory, and the thing I needed to do with it, it couldn't do, and I have not revisited it. But I have seen demos and I've seen it in use. It would be awesome if you just hit like a button and it launched Azure Data Studio. That would be an incredible capability, right? And
Please go vote for that idea.
What's that?
Go vote for that idea.
Okay.
I know you can already do this on the Azure portal. So if you're in Azure and you're on like a Azure SQL Server, you can click on a button and it'll launch Azure Data Studio.
Right.
So this is theoretically possible, but we need your votes and your ideas to make these types of features happen. So let us know. Vote for it on ideas. But
hey, Alex, where's that link to that idea? Because
it's ideas.powerbi.com for those folks that are wondering.
They're looking. All right, cool. Yeah, because that would be fantastic, right? And what a great way to transition into Data Studio, because I would imagine that the code base of SSMS is so amazingly large, and the features there, that I would not expect Data Studio to potentially ever address all of the functionality that SSMS has, but that the tech that we would see in the future, right? Like, so the data estate we'll be on 10 years from now, the Azure Data Studio will 100% be able to manage, and it's only going to be SSMS will be used for legacy content is my thoughts on the subject. So I wanted to start getting used to Data Studio now. And so if you're a viewer, I would recommend starting to get used to, work with Data Studio, test those things out, especially around data marts. I think that's a great opportunity for us, right? Greg has a good question, and he asks, is there a lot of dog fooding of data marts at Microsoft? I.e., are there business folks at Microsoft that are using data marts, providing you feedback, seeing where the pain points are, and are there any pain points or things that you could share with us?
So I think you'll have to remind me on the second part of that question, but the first part, I would say, yeah, absolutely. We make sure we eat what we cook. So we run our business and we use Power BI every day, right? That's one. And then two, for our team, and then for a number of teams within Microsoft, we're also using data marts. Okay. And so a really good example of this was the feature that said, hey, allow data marts for specific users or groups. This is something that Microsoft internally is taking advantage of as well. So we definitely leverage Microsoft being a huge organization. The amazing feedback that we can get from our different business units, right? We've got, LinkedIn and Xbox and, Bing and a bunch of other organizations within our purview that, we can leverage for great feedback from a variety of personas. So we definitely do that. And then our team internally, like I said, I was using a data mart earlier today for analyzing some customer information. So definitely we do that.
Oh, that is awesome to hear. That is great. Now, I remember, and this is going way back, at a certain point in time, and I mean, like, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, it became exciting because, now Satya was using Power BI. And like, that was the big, like, rock that got moved. Like, oh my gosh, like, this is now big time. It's part of his world. Is Satya using data marts yet?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I suspect if he was using, he may not know because he's probably analyzing at the report layer, but he might be. All of our leaders are very, very hands-on. And they're really deep in the technology, so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And our idea is to make sure no matter who you are, whether you're internal or external, you're getting amazing customer experience.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But the biggest thing we have to do is make sure that, no matter who you are, everyone's, a Satya, everyone's, priority 00 for us to make sure you have an amazing experience. And that's what we're laser focused on. So please, let us know if you have any feedback. Add us, find, myself, my peers on, Twitter, social media, email us. Let us know your feedback and how we can improve. It's super important to us to make sure that you love the product.
Yeah. And yes, please do. If you are out there, do provide that feedback. Again, I stated this earlier in the podcast. I say it all the time. Charles, you crush it, and Microsoft and the Power BI team crushes it when it comes to responding to user feedback, getting things up and going, and doing stuff. So it is based upon how we interact with the team. Do remember, though, Charles is is human. He bleeds red blood like just all of us. Be nice to him and everyone on the Microsoft team. If you have feedback, be positive, be constructive, phrase the world and how we'd like it to be and how we can work together on it. Let's not be overly negative on things, because while things may suck for a brief period of time, we're all working to make this world better and these products better as well. So, yeah, thank you for all of that. And then, there's one other question. When were we going to see views? Was there a date that you had on that?
Please stay tuned.
All right. Just getting that try in there. Last shot there. And then before we wrap it up, I and my wife have a great idea for an Xbox video game. Is there an ideas.xbox.tips or something like that I could go to and fill out? Because we've been talking about this for like a year, and it is a fantastic video game. And if I knew anything about video games, I'd just create it myself, but I don't. So do you know anyone on the Xbox team I could reach out to?
I do not, but I would say that, I know Xbox has an awesome Twitter presence, so maybe you can tag them or slide into their DMs and see if you can pitch the idea there.
All right. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. So, okay, awesome. All right, before we wrap up, Charles, is there anything else you wanted us to know about the most revolutionary feature to be rolled out for analytics in a decade?
I would just want to say thank you. I know if you've attended this session, you've heard, almost an hour of Chris and I going back and forth, and we really appreciate using our products. It's a real treat and an honor for you all to give us your feedback, to give us your time today, and actually try our products and tell us what you like and what you don't like. Please keep it coming. It means the world to us, and it helps us build better products. Our team is amazing, and I'm very thrilled to be part of our bigger Datamarts team. And they crush it. So I'm just, honored to be a part of the team, the squad, and then secondarily to serve you all. So please keep your feedback coming, no matter, how negative or critical it is. We need to hear it. And thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Charles, thank you so much for your time. I know this is, eating into your workday. I'm sure you got Satya, and you've got Arun pinging you all, and Priya trying to get a hold of you for all sorts of stuff. And so thank you for blocking them off and stay tuned with us and joining us. Thank you to everyone who has joined this live stream for taking time out of your day to sit down and meet with us and talk as we talk about Datamarts and we talk about how we use it inside the enterprise and why we should be enabling this and allowing people to use this. I think this is a huge feature that a lot of enterprises may miss the value proposition of, right? They've heard of Datamarts, or whatever. But that is that's the old state. We got to be thinking about this new state, especially because Power BI Datamarts offers some unique features and functionalities that you really want to enable inside your organization. So thank you for listening. Hopefully we can get this message out so we could drive adoption. We could bring these new features on. There is no live stream next week. But stay tuned. I have some big announcements that are about to be breaking. I'll be announcing those within the next 9, maybe 10 days. 10 days. This will start the countdown. We're going to start it right now. This is 10 days to my big announcement. Look forward to that. So thank you guys all for tuning in. And Charles, thank you for being here with us. Awesome. Peace.